Imagine this. You're not texting her. You're not chasing her. You're not doing anything at all. Yet somehow she's obsessed with you. You've heard the phrase, play hard to get. But what if I told you there's a far more powerful tactic that goes beyond the typical advice? What if I told you that by doing nothing, you could make any woman think about you constantly? This isn't about mind games or manipulation, though it can sound like it at first. This is about the power of no contact, a psychological tactic that, when used right, turns the tables and flips the script on dating. Instead of being the guy she's used to, the one she can always rely on to text, call, and show up, you become the mystery, the challenge, the man who isn't afraid to disappear for a while and make her feel that gap. But here's the controversial truth that most men won't admit. Women love the chase. They crave attention, but even more, they want the thrill of earning it. By mastering the no-contact method, you flip the power dynamics in your favor, pushing her into a psychological space where she starts wondering about you. Not just wondering, but obsessing. I know you might be thinking, but why would ignoring her make her want me more? Here's the thing. It's not about ignoring her out of spite. It's about making her realize that you have a life, a purpose, and you won't just drop everything for her. It's about teaching her that your attention is earned, not given freely. In this video, I'll walk you through the dark psychology tricks behind this strategy. These aren't your typical be confident and wait tips. These are deep-rooted psychological principles that tap into the unconscious mind of women, making them not only chase you, but become obsessed with getting your attention. Ready to learn the secrets of manipulating attraction to your advantage? Let's dive in. You've probably heard it 100 times. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But this isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a principle that works on a deep psychological level. The more you pull away, the more she'll wonder about you, and the more she'll feel the absence. This absence creates a void, and when there's a void, the mind starts to fill it with thoughts. Thoughts about you. When you're always around, always available, she takes your presence for granted. You're just another part of the scenery. But when you disappear, even briefly, you become the missing piece. Suddenly, you're no longer the predictable guy who'll always text back or show up whenever she needs you. You've become the guy she doesn't know enough about, and that's exactly when interest spikes. For example, imagine you've been texting her every day, replying almost immediately, and keeping the conversation flowing. You've got her attention, but it's starting to fade. She's used to you, she's comfortable, and nothing about your interactions feels like a challenge anymore. Then one day you stop texting. Not because you're angry, not because you're playing games, but because you've got your own life to live. You go silent for a few days, even a week. What happens next? She starts wondering where you've gone. She begins to replay your past conversations, analyze everything you said, and look for clues. Why hasn't he texted? Did I do something wrong? Now you're on her mind constantly, and that's exactly the effect you want. She doesn't have the answers anymore, and her mind starts working overtime trying to figure you out. This tactic isn't about ignoring her to be cruel. It's about creating space so she has room to miss you. The absence allows her to start feeling an emotional gap that only you can fill. She'll begin to crave the moments you spent together, the excitement of your interactions. The power of absence turns you from just another guy into the guy she's desperate to get back in touch with. And when she does reach out, she's already emotionally invested, making her that much more drawn to you. Women love a mystery. They love not knowing everything about you. The more they have to figure out, the more intrigued they become. If you're too open, too predictable, she'll get bored quickly. But if you leave some things to the imagination, she'll start obsessing over the details. The unknown is powerful. When you're constantly revealing everything about yourself, you make it too easy for her to understand you. But if you keep a little mystery, whether it's about your past, your future plans, or even just your interests, you force her to piece things together. This curiosity can drive her crazy in the best way. She'll want to know more, and the more she wants to know, the more she'll chase after you. For instance, let's say you're talking to her and she asks about your weekend plans. Instead of telling her exactly what you're doing, you give a vague answer like, "I've got a few things lined up, but I'll see where the day takes me." Now she's left wondering, what could he be doing? Where could he be going? It's not about being evasive or lying. It's about not giving her all the answers right away. The mystery doesn't have to be huge or dramatic. It's about keeping her on her toes and making her work for the answers. When you drop a little information and then pull back, it's like playing a game of chess. Every move you make is carefully thought out, and she's always trying to predict your next one. This tactic creates an emotional tug-of-war. She doesn't want to be left in the dark, and her curiosity will drive her to reach out more, to keep the conversation going, just to uncover more pieces of you. By keeping the mystery alive, you're constantly engaging her mind. You're never predictable, never easy to figure out. This is what makes you irresistible. The sense that there's more to you than meets the eye, and she can't help but want to know what that is. Have you ever noticed how some women seem to crave attention and validation from certain men more than others? It's not about looks or money, it's about how much you allow her to emotionally depend on you. Emotional dependency is the secret weapon in this dynamic. The more she needs your approval, your attention, or even just your presence, the more power you hold. It's a psychological trick that most men overlook. Here's the reality. People crave emotional connection. Women are no different. When you create situations where she feels like she can't quite get your attention whenever she wants it, you tap into that craving. You make her feel that emotional gap, the space where your validation should be. The more she feels this need, the more she'll start seeking you out to fill it. Now, don't mistake this for being cold or heartless. This isn't about playing with her feelings in a cruel way. It's about subtly shifting the power dynamic so that she starts relying on you emotionally, not the other way around. When you're always there to reassure her, always quick to respond, she doesn't have to work for your attention. But when you stop offering constant validation, she starts to feel the sting of not having you around. The key here is balance. You want to give her just enough to keep her interested, but never too much to where she takes you for granted. When she's emotionally invested in depending on your attention, you've essentially made her feel the need to keep earning it. This emotional pull makes her come back for more, searching for that connection you hold, but don't always give freely. The beauty of emotional dependency is that it creates a cycle of attachment. She will start to tie her happiness to how much of your attention she gets. The more unpredictable you are in your availability, the more she'll chase. But this doesn't mean being distant or cold forever. It's about creating space for her to feel the absence of you. This space, in turn, fuels her desire to get closer to you, to earn your attention and approval once more. Ultimately, the more she emotionally depends on you, the more she'll obsess over you, because emotional dependency makes her crave your presence like nothing else. Here's the truth that most men refuse to face. You've been doing it all wrong. You think chasing her, giving her constant attention, and always showing up will win her over. But here's the problem. When you chase, you lose. It's that simple. The reverse psychology effect is all about turning this on its head. Instead of pursuing her, you make her chase you. Why does this work? Because the reality is, women are not interested in what they can have easily. When you're always available, always the nice guy who's there for her, you become predictable, and predictability is boring. She knows you'll always be around, and that's not exciting. The chase is what keeps her engaged. If you've been the type to constantly reach out, to plan every interaction, you've been making one critical mistake. You've made her comfortable. Comfortable equals bored. It's time to wake up. Stop putting her on a pedestal. Stop thinking that if you give her everything, she'll fall for you. The truth is, by doing this, you're just lowering your value. Women respect men who have their own lives, their own interests, and most importantly, their own boundaries. When you stop chasing her and pull back, you shift the balance of power. She starts to wonder why you're not as available, why you're not giving her the attention she's used to. This curiosity pushes her to take action and start chasing you. Let's be clear, this isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about showing her that you're not desperate for her approval. You have your own life, your own purpose, and you're not going to drop everything just for her. This is the foundation of reverse psychology. It's not about ignoring her. It's about teaching her that your attention is earned, not given freely. If you've been the kind of guy who texts her all the time, always reaching out and making yourself available, it's time to step back and reassess. You're not doing yourself any favors. Women are attracted to men who have their own lives, who aren't afraid to take space, and who make her work for their attention. Stop being the guy who's always there and start being the guy she has to fight to keep. One of the hardest truths for men to accept is that too much contact kills desire. If you're always texting, always available, and always making plans, you're not giving her a reason to miss you. Desire isn't built on constant presence, it's built on absence. When you create distance, when you pull back just enough, she starts to miss you in ways she didn't expect. This is the psychological key to creating deeper attraction. Think about it. When something is always available, it becomes commonplace. It's no longer special. But when something becomes scarce, it becomes valuable. This is exactly why less is more in the realm of attraction. When you give her just enough attention and then pull back, you leave her wanting more. She starts to wonder where you went, why you're not as available, and why she doesn't hear from you as often. This longing is what fuels desire. Distance doesn't mean ignoring her or being cold. It means setting boundaries. It means living your life, having your own interests, and making her realize that your attention is not something she can take for granted. You don't need to be at her beck and call. Instead, you make her wait for it, making the moments you do connect even more meaningful. This is where many men fail. They assume that constant communication is a sign of affection, but in reality, it's a sign of insecurity. The more you chase, the more you push her away. The more you make yourself available, the less she'll value you. This isn't about mind games, it's about creating a natural magnetic pull that comes from knowing your worth and allowing her to miss you. When you create distance, you allow her to feel the absence of you in her life. This absence becomes a craving, a desire that grows over time. The less you give her, the more she will want from you. It's not the moments of constant connection that make her crave you. It's the time in between. When you pull back, you give her space to appreciate you. You give her room to realize that your attention is something to be earned, not expected. Ultimately, creating desire through distance isn't about playing hard to get. It's about knowing your value, being confident enough to take a step back, and letting her come to you. The more she has to work for your attention, the more she'll crave it. Here's the controversial truth that many won't tell you. Chasing women is one of the fastest ways to push them away. The more you chase, the more you lose. Because what you're really showing is that you're desperate for validation. Women don't respect desperation, they respect strength, independence, and confidence. So stop begging for attention and start being the one who is in control of it. You have the power to change the dynamic, but only if you stop playing by their rules and start setting your own. The reality is, these psychological tactics aren't about manipulation. They're about understanding human behavior and attraction on a deeper level. If you use these principles correctly, you'll attract the right kind of women who respect you, value you, and obsess over you in the healthiest way possible. So, I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried the no contact method? How did it work for you? What about creating distance? Did it make her want you more? Drop a comment below and share your experiences. I'll be reaching out to connect with you personally. Let's talk about what's working for you and what's not. And we can dive deeper into making these techniques work in your life. It's time to stop chasing and start attracting.